What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared Podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson, and joining me today, as per the usual, telephonically from miles away, through the pouring rain, Old Legs.
Yes, somebody get this man a gun!
I think we might have a gun sound effect. Hold on. There we go.
I've been working on that pretty much all day. That's my Lawrence Fishburne just not giving up. You know what?
You can swear on this show.
Hamming it up, man.
Okay.
I didn't know if I wanted to start off the first minute with an F-bomb.
Right, just kind of let the kids get used to it.
I like to grease the wheels a little bit and
keep it classy.
Just kind of work them in.
Sure.
Yeah. So we don't even. The people don't even know what we're talking about yet, so it wouldn't feel right.
That's true. We got to kind of. This is the part where this is
straight off the top rope.
Yeah, we don't want to lose them quite yet. They should at least know what we're going to talk about.
Right.
This is the point where they're playing it and they're like, I don't know. Do I really want to? Do I want to listen to this the whole time? Do I really want to spend my time listening to them? Cursing up a storm.
What they're going to talk about.
Right. This is their time where they can get out. They have that hard out, and hopefully they're like Ben Affleck in Triple Frontier, and they don't take the hard out.
Right.
Just a couple more bags.
We can get a couple more bags.
Come on.
I love whiny Affleck.
We need more
out
of it.
Out of shape, whiny Affleck.
Give us a whole
amazing.
Feature film length version of that.
Why was that not Bruce Wayne? Come on, guys.
Just a couple more bags.
I gave us 4 extra minutes. Just a couple more bags. Ugh.
Questions that will never be answered.
Right. So, Mr. Host, what are we talking about?
So, last week, a movie came out. It was a trilogy. The third film of a series. That's what a trilogy means. It was John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, right?
Yes.
So that was obviously the third film in the John Wick franchise, as I've stated 3 times now. So we were thinking, let's just dive in to the whole John Wick franchise. Now, John Wick, the first movie came out in 2014.
Correct.
And
yes.
This was about the time, just to give a little history for you guys out there. You and I met and started to form our movie knowledge in the summer of 2013.
Wow. So it was gosh, does it feel like John Wick is that old?
It doesn't, no. It does not feel like he's that old.
It's weird.
So it was like...
I feel like we've known each other
for millennia.
Years and years.
Yeah.
God.
So
2014.
It was the spring of 2014. So we had gone, it wasn't quite a year since we were working on the farm together. And so this was kind of one of the first ones that you and I separately were like, hey, we want to, we were like, we got to go see that. Like, I specifically remember you saying, Keanu Reeves back in an action movie. I'm all in.
Okay. All right.
And I was
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting because at that point, I don't think John Wick it wasn't supposed to be a big thing, right?
No, we thought this was going to be like another, 47 Ronin. It was just it just looked like it was just going to be a dumb action movie starring starring Keanu Reeves.
Sure.
That really wasn't gonna do much. It was probably gonna be forgettable. But I remember the trailer came out and you said, Keanu Reeves in an action movie, I'm in, and that was it.
Right. And yeah, just to preference, like, I guess the audience, anything Keanu is in, I'm all about it. I guess, like, I would say can I lump you into, like, my Keanu fandom, or
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
am I
Yeah,
a level above?
I mean, I think
I do have a giant poster of Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze just staring off into the endless nothing,
Yeah.
looking for that right wave.
I mean, Keanu Reeves has always been. I've always had a special place for Keanu in my heart.
Okay.
And for me, I think the stock has always been good. But I think you helped me raise his stock a little bit. You were like, this stock price has never gone down. It's only gone up. And
Right.
I think that I was like, you know what? You're right. I should invest more into it. And look at us. It paid off.
It's crazy, yeah, because, I mean, it's 3 separate kind of runs, right?
Yeah.
Where it's
Bill and Ted.
obviously, well,
That wasn't really much of a run, but that was like the
I
earliest
guess,
one I
yeah,
could think
it's like
of.
Bill and Ted, but, like, the Speed into Point Break, and then The Matrix, and then,
Well, Point Break was before Speed, though.
well, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Point Break, Speed, either way, hands down, classics, amazing,
Mm-hmm.
incredible. And then, yeah, into The Matrix, and then he's essentially like the triple A-list,
Right.
top of his game. And, yeah, I mean...
And it's just kind of the
and
dwindling Matrix franchise.
Right,
Diminishing
right.
returns, and then...
2's okay, 3 I remember nothing about. And then, you know, he comes back strong with 47 Ronin.
Right. That was the start of his comeback.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I've always been just hard in on Keanu. Even his bad stuff, just kind of his Keanu-ness kind of pulls it through. He's definitely on that, like, Nick Cage level where I can sit through some real shitters,
Mm-hmm.
because he can kind of pull it through, and I know, like, people's mileage definitely varies with that, and
If
I
your
think
stock
more or less
price is higher on Keanu, then you have to admit that my stock price is higher for Nick Cage. Right?
okay, yeah, that's
a
actually
fair
good comparison.
compromise?
Like,
Okay.
we're both up there, but yeah, I'll go with that.
Yes.
So yeah, so the John Wick thing. Again, I don't think it was supposed to be a big film. Did it have like a crazy? I don't think it had like a huge budget. Did it, the first one?
Let me fact check
Obviously,
that.
they ramped it up since then.
Right, but it
But
was
I kind
like
of like that the part of that, like, B movie feel to it. They keep
Mhm.
that fucking stupid B movie font for
yes,
like
they
all
do.
of the words, all of like the Russian translation, or just him sign language singing something where it's like
Mhm.
it just looks like something you would see off of like a direct to DVD. It's like it's almost the same as like the Fast and the Furious font. And it just kind of brings this campiness to it, but they're not really campy movies, the John Wick franchise,
Right.
in my mind.
So they easily could be. And this was kind of the time where it was like, this was like the post-Taken action movie era. So this was
Sure.
kind of the time when it felt like every movie was coming out trying to be Taken. And it was like, we're going to get an older action star, we're going to put him in an action movie, and it's going to work. And there are just so many forgettable action movies that have come out. And this one was one that they were just kind of, the studio didn't really think much of. But then the reviews were great, and it performed pretty well. It was mainly word of mouth, and then it kind of heat up. So the production budget on this was $20 million. So pretty.
Oh, interesting! Wow.
So
it probably crushed that, didn't it?
Yeah, so it's pretty modest. Domestically, it made $43 million, so over doubled it in the U.S. Worldwide was almost $89 million.
Oh wow!
So it did very well. Not necessarily one that's automatically greenlight sequel, but did extremely well.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, that's kind of funny because I think we'll get into part 2, obviously. But did you think this was a franchise?
No, I mean I
definitely didn't. I just saw it. I'm like, cool, awesome.
Yeah, I saw when I first saw it, I thought this is great, it's awesome. But then the more you watch it, the more it's well, clearly the stuff with the hotel and the world building of it, that little bit of stuff,
the Continental.
That's the stuff where it's
I think they tapped into something where it's oh my god, there's just this kind of fun mythology here that we can milk for what it's worth.
And we'll get into that in a little bit.
Right. Yeah. So John Wick 1. So obviously I think anyone probably listening to this knows the story. He gets out of the assassin game. His wife dies. His wife leaves him one parting gift, being his dog, and Alfie Allen shits all over that.
Yeah, fucking dumbass.
Yeah. And this is kind of funny too, because this is peak Alfie Allen too. He's very prominent in the Game of Thrones world, and everyone's like, oh my god, that guy from Game of Thrones. And you have all that. I think it's super surprising how well casted these movies are.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of stunt casting here and there that it could sink it if it's not done just right. But I think for the most part, if we're just talking Michael Nyqvist as kind of the lead gangster guy is great. Willem Dafoe, I completely forgot Willem Dafoe is in it.
Oh, that's right, his buddy assassin.
Yeah. He's and it's one of those great kind of mix-ups where he says right off the bat, I got this, I'll kill John Wick, and you think he's there to kill him, but he's really actually just kind of watching his back the whole time, which is pretty good.
So one thing, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. I was going to start talking about Ian McShane, but
we got plenty of time.
About Winston, so
I was going to say one of the things that John Wick really started, and they kind of kept in the first one especially, they were really setting up the myth of John Wick, which I think they pulled off very well. But it's a lot of the movie is this dude is a badass. This guy is the boogeyman. He's coming for you, and that
he's
can
not the boogeyman.
Right, he's the one you call to kill the fucking
to kill the boogeyman.
And that's kind of tough to do because you have to pay that off at a certain point. And it's a lot of times movies will kind of bite off more than they can chew by building a character up too much, and then they kind of fall flat because they didn't. But what John Wick did, it took a gamble on setting up the mythology, but it really paid off, and they left no doubts that this dude is everything they said he was.
I think it works because they don't spend a lot of time having Keanu explain to the audience through dialogue that he is a badass. It's mostly just through him just judoing, jujitsuing, MMA, shooting people in the head for an hour and 20 minutes straight, and it's just I I got it.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like, so I like that you brought that up, the mythos building. He's almost like this, like Bo Jackson type character, where there's all these crazy stories about Bo Jackson, and no one's really sure if they're true, but nobody's like dead willing to just say like, no, he couldn't have done that. He couldn't have done like a backflip in the pool at like waist level,
right?
Amount of water. Like there's everyone's like, well, yeah, probably, like, you know, it's like that kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
So that's kind of the cool thing. It's like it starts with the pencil, and then in 2 they're like, yeah, and that shit about the pencil. It's like that story's probably watered down, right? It's like pencil wasn't even sharp,
right?
Yeah. So I really appreciate that point, and I feel like maybe they tailed off a little bit on that trend as the series has gone along a little bit.
Yeah, they did.
But again, it's how much more can you say?
Right. At that point,
turning into kind of like a joke.
Right. Like after the first one, everyone talked about it, and then it was just established. Like, okay, he's back. He's a badass. We all know that, and then we don't have to talk about it anymore.
Right.
Which is okay. You know, the Spider-Man franchise could take a note from that. You don't have to keep repeating the same thing over and over. Hot take. Took a shot there at the Spider-Man.
Well,
I don't know if
are you saying that you don't want to see Uncle Ben die again?
Right. Yeah. Or hear, with great power comes great responsibility. You know, I don't need to hear that ever again. But anyway, so I think, well, let's move on to the second one. I have some thoughts about the franchise as a whole, but I'm going to wait.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I'll just say the wrap up with the first one. I was really surprised going back because I watched it last night again, and it really does kind of tug at your heartstrings a lot more than the next two do, to a surprising level. Willem Dafoe's character is kind of his only friend. I don't know, you kind of feel like he's a bit more sad. I mean, he doesn't until like kind of the final act when he starts jumping out of his chair. When it doesn't really make much sense. Like his best line of the whole movie is like, he's like, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. Because at that point he's like tied down to a chair and he's like about to be like strangled to death, and it's only Willem Dafoe's character who like ends up bailing him out.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make much sense for him to be popping off there, but that line's incredible. Just top to bottom,
So one thing,
the first one really works for me.
Yeah,
and I did not think that this would be a franchise. I was completely blindsided, surprised when I heard about the second one. And we can go ahead and start talking about it. But so John Wick 2, they took a bunch of time off. What is it, like 4 years or something like that?
Yeah, it was 3. This one came out in
4 years?
February of 2017. So.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So this one, they doubled the budget on it. It was $40 million for this one. And this one did very well. The domestic total was $92 million, and then the worldwide was $171 million. So on a $40 million budget, that's very good. So, going into this, I knew, they had this great world building with the Continental and kind of the whole culture around that. And so clearly that was what you were going to draw from for the second one. The second one has, they could either do, it's like with this kind of a sequel, it's like, okay, do we try and just replicate the first one and try and do what we did the first time, just do it again? Or do we double down on the world building and the kind of ridiculous action, and that's what they did. And I think that's probably the right choice for the franchise. The second one has a lot of action, a lot of just a lot in general, and you know what? Let's hear some of your thoughts. I wanted to say something, but then I'm gonna wait till the end of the John Wick 2.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you want to dunk on me here?
Yep.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
So John Wick 2. This one, so I think I have to preference a little bit more. It was hard for me having John Wick 2, or just John Wick in general, be like such a mainstream like hit, that word of mouth thing, where for whatever reason it really caught on with the masses. Because this is normally a movie that I feel like you and I really like, but is maybe kind of underappreciated.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So you have that, and I think John Wick 2 really made me appreciate the franchise, because the other factor that I had going into the first original John Wick, was that I had just seen The Raid 2 probably like a month before, and so I went from The Raid 2, which is essentially the Hong Kong version, Indonesian version of John Wick, except I would probably say that it's a bit more over the top as far as the action, the fighting, the choreography is top notch. And I don't care, as much as I love Keanu Reeves and as much as I love John Wick, it's not at that level. It's not at the level of Raid. Right. It's not at the level of The Raid 2. It's not at the level of The Night Comes For Us. Any of these movies, but what it does have, John Wick, is it has that mythology, and it has the Keanu who can drive this thing to those like supernova levels.
Right.
So
yeah.
I can't say that about The Raid or any of the stuff coming from the East, even though I think just it's superior as far as like an action film is concerned.
Sure.
But yeah, obviously those films don't have Ian McShane just throwing it out there for 12 minutes of screen time where he's just lobbing grenades left and right. And I mean like verbal grenades. I think everyone who's not like Keanu Reeves in this just like loves being in these movies, because I mean obviously Lawrence Fishburne in the second one is just off his fucking rocker.
Yeah, he is. They were just
it's absolutely incredible.
They were just like, do whatever you want. We don't care.
Yeah, it's so good. They're like, yeah, but like, just give me that, give me what you just did times like 2 Forrest Whitakers.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
And it's like, yeah,
it's like when John Lithgow was on WTF, and he was talking about how most directors tell him that he's got to scale it back.
Yeah.
Like he said, he's like, I always start big, and they always tell me that I got to scale it back.
I love that.
And he said the only director that wanted him to go more was George Miller in the Twilight Zone movie. He was like, nice. George would say to me, I want to see your skull crack.
It always just reminds me of that stupid, is it Borat or Bruno, where he's having the frat guys jump off the bus
it was Borat.
It's just like spelling spring break or something like that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, good, but with more enthusiasm.
Yes.
Just, cracks me up.
Every time.
But, so John Wick 2, he seems out, and it seems really hard to like figure a reason for him to get back in.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
He literally has no friends. He has no. It's just he's a guy in mourning who's lost his dog, and so they do the brilliant thing of they just double down on the mythos. They do. Like, okay, you have this blood oath that you did to get out with D'Antonio.
Right. Whatever.
I love that name. That name cracks me up, actually. Like, you name your kid that, like, he's definitely going to turn into, like, a crime lord. Like, come on. What the hell
what did
thinking?
You expect?
But, yeah, so he has this reason where I guess he's like, well, you got to... It's like, sorry, John, you got to... Jonathan...
Come on.
Jonathan,
you took the oath.
You have to follow the rules,
Come
Jonathan.
on.
So, yeah, he has to do it. And then D'Antonio does this stupid thing where he's like, oh, well, I'm just going to backstab this guy now, and I already burned down his house, so, you know, what's the worst that can happen? When Wick completes the job for him, he puts a name out for him to avenge his sister who he had killed, and chicanery ensues. Do you want to... What do you got for me? I can kind of riff off of what you got, but I have a couple more Chapter 2 thoughts.
So John Wick Chapter 2, like you said, it definitely doubled down on the mythos, which is kind of what you have to do. The main... And like I said, there's a lot more action. All of these movies have very good choreographed action. You can tell that all these guys go through a lot of combat training. And, you know, the directors... So the directors... there were two directors on the first one, and then only one directed the next one.
They were both, like...
But the other was
stuntmen, right?
Correct. So they were both stunt doubles for Keanu. They've been stuntmen forever, but they were stunt doubles for like The Matrix and a couple of Keanu's movies, and so they worked for them for a long time. And they actually they said they had this idea for years while they were doing shitty B movies, and they thought of like this Hitman story, obviously, but then they thought of all these mythos and like how like the coins, they kind of explained it in the third one more, a little bit, but they're not a form of payment. It's more like a card, just like I belong to this club. Here's this card, like almost a membership, and I'm in. And
because it seems like he gives like one coin for
everything,
anything,
right? Yep, 100%.
And this world actually seems like super simple, and I would love that. Like if I
be
just
so easy. Yep.
It's
can of Coke.
Rents due.
Yep, one coin.
Here's a coin.
Yeah.
At Mountain Dew. Here's a
coin. Did you want to add guac for an extra coin? All right, fine.
Yes. Here's one of my like things I've been thinking about. Before I forget, because I've just been like bubbling up with John Wick thoughts. But like having worked part time in like retail, like that kind of world where you have people coming in and it's like they're asking questions about things, and you're like you're selling a specific thing that needs to probably be explained because there's a lot of different options here, and it's like. Does John Wick ever like go into like the Roman gun back alley shop, and there's like a guy in front of him, and he's just like kind of walking around for a while, just like waiting, or does he ever? He's like, no, I want that gun, but like, can I get these like bullets? And like, oh, I'm sorry, John Wick would. We may have to special order that. It could be 3 to 4 day wait. Is that okay? Like you'll have to pay extra shipping. Like. It seems like that never happens to him. He's just like, they're like, oh, check out this gun. He's like, cool, awesome.
He's like, perfect. Like, does it kill people?
In and out
great.
in like 7, 8, yeah, great. Like,
yeah.
And I love how they keep ramping it up. Like, I don't know anything about guns, but they just like every time he goes into the cool gun place, they're like, oh, but I know you liked whatever the fuck you had last time, but this one. And he's like, oh, wow, cool.
Great.
How does it do when I'm chucking it at someone's head? Because
I will run out of bullets, and I'm just going to throw it at someone's face at some point.
You ever like just chuck this thing as hard as you can at someone's face? Hurts like hell, man.
It's effective. Believe me. It's effective.
So I always like think about that, just like the other side of it. Or like, what are these, like, are these guys really I bet they're just like, oh my god, thank God, an assassin. Like,
we
it's
don't have to
been
do all
3
this
months
small
since we've had a
talk
customer,
bullshit.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. These guys know what they want. They just come in and they don't ask questions. They just take whatever we got and go. Like, it's great. It really makes our job easy. Yeah. So these directors just said that they had this idea, and they said when they were working on movies, that's what they would do. And there's like a bunch of little like things that they talked about that I notice now. Like, they said that if you ever like, he's like, one trick they learned for making a bunch of B movies is with their stunt guys. If you ever see stunt guys with a full head of hair and full beards, that's usually towards the beginning of a shoot. And then as they shoot more, they'll all of a sudden have like shorter hair and like a scraggly beard. And then all of a sudden they'll have short hair and a goatee, and then they'll be bald with a goatee, and they'll just be completely bald. Like, as the shooting progresses, so that they look like different bad guys, but they can use the same guys like throughout. So like, if you see the different levels of hair and facial hair, you know like what time they were filming it. And I'm like, that's great. I love that little nugget. And like, you can tell like Keanu puts in months of combat training before this with guns, and he's such a great physical act, like one of the best like physical actors ever. I think that's easy to say. Yeah,
he has this weird style where he's like, he looks like he's kind of laboring. Mm-hmm. Like it's kind of this like herky jerky thing, but it works.
It works so well,
and you can tell that it's him, and he's doing it, and it's like the same look.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Where it's like you don't really see it's not as mechanical as like a Bourne movie or something like that, where
it's almost like surgical precision.
Yeah, you can see it's actually like something that was like, okay, they like worked on this for like 3 days.
Right.
And
and I think that with 2, again, like the action set pieces are bigger. There's more choreography. It all looks great, and I love like the.
What's your favorite?
I think I like when, the one that stands out is when he and Common end up walking down the street, just nonchalantly shooting at each other.
I was watching that, and it reminded me. Did you see? It's like that viral thing where the guys are flicking each other off.
Oh yeah.
And it's like the silent, like fuck you, like just, and they just keep going back at it, and it reminded me of that, and I just laughed, like I like literally.
Yeah.
And then I pictured myself like walking like next to Keanu Reeves, and I'm like, I bet like this is like what people do in New York. They just like they don't give a fuck. Like, I wonder if I wanted to like think in my heart of hearts. I'm like, God, I wish I was just like, I wonder if I've been like that close to like a silent gunfight, and I just didn't know. Like I just
right. You're just walking down the street without noticing.
I'm listening to like Mask Off by Future Hendrix. I got no idea what's going on around me. Can't hear a fucking thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I also liked like when he's in the caves, the party cave thing. Like that's a weird place for a party where he leaves the gun. I really like that one a lot. But so a lot of that
kind of sequence from like the D'Antonio girl committing suicide and him saving her from going to hell,
right?
And then the whole through the entire Lollapalooza, whatever they
right. Why are you having it in ruins?
The best parties, man.
Yeah,
the John Wick parties look like they.
Yeah, like the nightclub in the first one, that nightclub scene is great. That's like one of my favorite nightclub scenes ever in a movie. Like, that is on par with like Collateral, maybe even better than Collateral's nightclub scene. Like, it's great.
Neon Demon?
Definitely better than Neon Demon. Another great Keanu Reeves movie.
Blade 2?
Blade 2? Hey, the first Blade with the rave I liked a lot.
Is that the one where they like shower blood?
Yeah, that was like the opening of the first Blade. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
that was cool.
That's my nightclub. That's
like the
where
you want to go.
Jesus
club.
Like
Christ.
I want to go to that club.
Okay, I got to get us back on track here. So we're gonna turn this around. So the other thing, John Wick, with all of the action, the thing that probably stands out to me about it is that it just didn't have that emotional tie that the first one had, that emotional through line and that core to bring you back, which made all the action, you cared more because you were invested in the emotional story of it. Whereas in the second one, they were just kind of sort of reheating the same emotional ties because it's like, well, what else do you do? And then they just kind of kept going. And it's like, you can't fault them for it. But it just wasn't, it made all the, if we could have cared more, if we could have had something to latch onto and really like tug at our heartstrings like the first one, then it would have made all the action that much better. But they kind of doubled down on the mythos and the storytelling, and the action, which I think is what you have to do. And it paid off, but it's not like it's not nearly as good as the first one. But it's technically, from a technical aspect, it's a great action movie. There's so much good action in there, top to bottom. So it's very rewatchable,
right,
for me. So
are you pro common or anti common in this movie?
I'd say I'm a little uncommon. He's fine. I liked him in it, but I also think like I would have rather had a different like celebrity type role in there. Like
it's so okay. I'm with you, and I think he's like an A plus lister when it comes to casting a hip hop star / rapper.
Yeah, 100%. He's like your number one call.
Like
he's the first call.
6 TIs combined.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
It's really, really easy for that to go bad, and so I think like he's probably like the Michael Jordan of rappers turned actors.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's good, but also the only thing I wish I was thinking of this last night and I couldn't really come up, so I wanted to kind of ask you, but I wanted, and I don't know that maybe it's really nailed this yet, but having like a foe for John Wick, where I know it's stupid to like think of like other movies or something like that, but when you see somebody on the screen, you're like, oh shit, like that guy. Like if it was like a Claude Van Damme, like Van Damme versus like Stallone or something, it's like, holy shit, like like watch it, like who's gonna win? And you don't feel that from Common, where like I never, even though it's like the fight sequences are great and they're like they seem pretty even on screen, you just don't have that like background.
You know what?
But it's hard with that casting because you can't go too over the top. Like if it's like Statham's
I'm
too
out.
big,
I'm
right?
out. Yeah.
Right.
I was gonna say
it's
like
be like that mid-level guy to where, but he has like a shit ton of like action movie.
You know who,
like street cred.
You know who just came to mind? Jet Li, randomly.
Yeah, like that. Like that's perfect.
Like Jet Li.
Perfect.
Yeah, that'd be great. Like you see him and you know him, and then they can. Yeah, I think. Fuck, I did it, man. Close the gate.
Because I was thinking too, like not as well known, but like just going back to the raid again, like Uyawis, like Ikawa Uyawis. He's been in a couple American things. He was in that like crazy 40 Mile movie with Marky Mark.
Oh, okay. He was in Star Wars, right? Episode 7.
He was.
Just for like a second.
Yeah. Right, yeah. So he's like, if I saw, like me personally, if I saw him on the screen, I'd be like, oh, fuck, like,
right.
Wick's in for it. Like, this is going to be rough. So yeah, that was like my only qualm. And it's like the same thing with Ruby Rose, like the mute, I guess. They don't really.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
They don't really give her enough run to really think like, oh yeah, she's gonna. Yeah. She could win. You know, there's not really like that.
Right. I almost completely forgot about her until you just brought her up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, she did all the sign language stuff. She had the weird haircut, and that's about what I remember.
And she was, I guess, like the number one for Santonio, but I don't know. It's hard too, because I feel like in these movies especially, you got to line up at least two big bads.
Yeah, for sure.
For Wick to run through, but yeah. I don't know. That's two. Did you like two better than one?
No, not even close.
Really? Okay.
You thought I liked? You thought I liked John Wick 2 better than John Wick 1?
I don't know. You didn't have much to say about one.
Well, I don't know. It feels like there's not much to be said. I think John Wick, it kind of gets lost with the franchise now, and I think the franchise kind of hurts how good of a movie that actually is. Because now we think of the franchise movies that aren't quite cinematically as one 3-arc story. The first one is so much better than the other ones, in my opinion. But I really like the other ones too. But it's just not, they're not the same.
It does feel like there's stakes in the first one.
Yeah, 100%.
It feels less so in 2, and then 3, there's absolutely no stakes.
Yeah, so
there's no way John Wick is dying.
What I liked about
impervious to death.
What I liked about the end of 2 is that when he killed him at the hotel, that you felt that that was a big deal. That was the first time I was like, oh fuck. Right. And then
because up to this point he's been a habitual
rule follower,
not crosser.
Yeah. Right.
He's not a habitual line stepper.
Right. He's Yeah. And it was worth it to him, and he did it, and it was fuck. And
you ever wonder why he didn't just grab him by the fucking tie,
just drag him out of there,
pull him out into the street?
Yeah. He probably should have just done that. I don't know, because does that count as conducting business if you're pulling him by the tie?
That's more of a gray area than just
flat out shooting him in the face.
Right on the duck fat fries.
Right, yeah. But what I do like about, and I hate it, looking back, I hated the ending when literally everyone looks up from their cell phone to watch him run away. That was so annoying. I'm there are not that many assassins out there in this one place. Shut the fuck up. But what
those guys on the street, they're not getting a room at the Continental. They're at the.
That's a good point.
They're at the Quality Inn.
Yeah, right. But moving into 3. What I liked about 3 probably the most.
One thing.
Well, the main thing I liked about 3 was that it held on to that for a long time. You could have easily just disregarded that in the first 10 minutes of he's what do they call it?
Excommunicated?
Yeah, excommunicado. He's
excommunicado.
Yeah, he's
it's
out.
It's the Latin version of
right.
it. It's the
it's the cool one.
The fucking biblical.
And so what I liked is that they could have just copped out and just been oh well, he's back now. He gets all, but they really played it out of him not.
They go full Halloween 2. Full Halloween 2. You there?
Of not. They could have just copped out, and no, I was just ignoring you. They could have.
Wait, what?
Just.
That's exactly what they did. They went full Halloween 2.
I realized that. Thank you.
30 minutes later, let's pick it up.
Okay. Noted. All right.
This time,
you want me to
going to the hospital?
Do you want me to say it? Okay. They did. You're right. They did go full Halloween 2. All right.
It's an homage. It's what they call an homage in the film industry.
What they set out to do. You're right. So they went full Halloween 2, and it starts out him still running, and they play that throughout. And it was because in 2 they really played up look at how nice it is to be part of the Continental. Look at all this free shit you get. Blah 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 blah. And then it really brought home that exclamation point of him shooting him in the head at the Continental. And then in the third one, they respected that choice by having him be more on his own and not have the Continental to just be OP, and they really respect that. I appreciated that a lot. What are you, so other than it being full Halloween 2, do you have any other thoughts about John Wick Chapter 3?
So, full disclaimer, I feel like, and I've only seen John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. I have no idea. I don't know what Parabellum means.
I looked it up.
It's like, I know what the cerebellum is, but I know what like Parabellum is. That's like is that like your third eye? You're supposed to like see. You're supposed to be able to like bend bullets with or something. I don't know.
No, it's
what
like,
does Parabellum mean?
It's part of that quote that he says. It's like part of a poem. Let me find it for you.
Okay. Well, I'll just keep talking.
Okay.
Because I think it's weird. It's weird what they've kind of attached themselves into, with just kind of obviously we've talked about the mythos, the Continental, the rules. There's this weird like kind of biblical nature to a lot of the things that are going on, and it's not like Christly biblical. It's like kind of the cool Boondock Saints biblical, where you have all of this Latin stuff and Latin words and people speaking in old English, and when they're explaining the rules of why you have to follow this weird, stupid procedural, when it seems like you kind of don't, as long as you just are able to kill the right sort of people.
I guess so.
Right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
But yeah, so Wick 3. Oh, or is this poem time?
Yep, I found it. So
okay.
Parabellum is now it's a type of semi-automatic pistol and machine gun, but it comes from the phrase "Si vis pacem parabellum," which means if you want peace, prepare for war.
Okay.
So that's basically what he says at the end there, the dude.
Okay. So, what do they add to the title of John Wick 4? Is it like John Wick 4 Equilibrium Fireblazer?
Sure.
Because they have to add like another...
Yeah. You know, I wish that John Wick...
Semicolon /
Yeah, I don't like that they added the word. I wish that John Wick Chapter 2 would have just been John Wick 2, just like old school. But I was like, all right, Chapter 2, that's fine. At least they didn't add some weird word to the end of it. And then, of course, they did it in 3. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah. It's like the fight for the planet for the apes.
Right.
Yeah.
So this one had the biggest budget at $55 million. For the third one, and so far, because it's only been out one weekend, right?
Yeah.
So after one weekend, it has a domestic take of $73 million. So it's already made its budget back. It's doing very well. So
you're just all over that, man.
Yep. So
I got nothing to add to that.
That means
it's a big deal. It's a great movie.
That means that there's probably going to be a fourth one. I would guess. What did you think of?
You.
What did you think?
Breaking news?
Yeah, as of right now, confirmed. John Wick Chapter 4, Parisneum is going to be coming out in 2.5 years. Did you like Halle Berry in this? Because I
loved her.
Did you really?
This is the exact perfect amount of Halle Berry.
That's a good point.
Anything more? I was a little nervous watching the trailers that this was going to be like a potential love interest that was gonna was gonna like propel into the next 3 films or something like that. But this is the absolute apex perfect amount of Halle Berry. What was it like? probably 15, 20 minutes tops.
Yep. She had
and
like
she's in and out. She full on hates him. I don't even think they don't, from start to stop. Like, it was like, fuck you, man. I'll do this. I'm not gonna like it. Nothing better happened to my dogs. Perfect. Like, I don't know how you could. That was great, and it was great billing too, because it was like, oh man, Halle Berry's in this. Like,
right, very true.
Go. Like, that's just asses in seats.
Yeah. Would you say that the amount of Halle Berry in this movie was comparable to the amount of Jared Leto in Blade Runner 2049? Or do you think that Jared Leto was used better in that one than Halle Berry was used in this one?
So I actually, I bought the final cut of Blade Runner 2049, and it has 0 Jared Leto in it.
Oh, so that was the ideal one?
It's a Jared Leto-less cut.
By final cut, you mean your final cut? The final cut that you've made?
This is Ridley Scott going back, and it's not his movie, but he did a cut. He did a cut.
And he added original footage from the first Blade Runner spliced in there as well. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And he mixed it to like a 9 Inch Nails album or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, pretty crazy. Check it out. Okay. Fuck Jared Leto.
that's all I really wanted.
If he's in 4, we're just like,
oh my god! If he's the big bad in John Wick 4, Parisium.
Yeah, that would actually, like, it. Honestly, if he's like the head of the table, I wouldn't. I could really see that. That's like honestly, a very Jared Leto move where he's I don't know, what ailment hasn't he played where he's been blind, he's been deaf, he's had AIDS, he's been
cancer,
he's been transgender, he's like, there's like not like a whole, he's been a drug addict, he's like what else is there for him to just like be? He's been the stupid fucking Joker where he's like shitting in people's like lunch bags, and he's been blaming on the fact that he's like in character.
Shitting in people's lunch bags.
No, it's like literally, it's like and then somehow, some way, this gets out. Like his agent's like, oh wow, this is some terrible PR right here. Oops. It's just like,
I think
it's like every one of Chris Brown's dick pics. It's like, oh shit.
I think that
how did that get out?
I think that you hate it so much because you know that's how you would be as an actor. I think you know that's exactly.
What are them doing in here?
I think you know that.
Oh man,
you're really just hating yourself.
You might be. There might be a shred of truth to that, and I might bring maybe like a 15% of Jared Leto to this podcast.
Yes, I agree
with my demands,
dude.
And
you guys have no idea how awful this is for me.
I hate every minute.
I loathe it. I'm actively wishing for the end to come. I want John Wick to come in and shoot me right between the eyes.
Right. Well, you know what? We can do that.
We can arrange
put
that.
Out a contract.
Do you happen to have 1 gold coin?
Okay. So, question. I'm just gonna start. I think I just need to start free firing here because I got a couple things I had to get off my mind.
Sure.
So the whole like contract system and like the ladies you have there, does watching the John Wick movies make you want to get a neck tat?
No.
But they look so cool.
Yeah, but
like neck tats look so.
But here's the deal,
cool
old legs.
In these movies.
Here's the deal.
And I'm just like, God damn, like that's just like, you just look like.
No, I think it looks
cool as hell.
It looks fine on them, but I'm saying for me.
And there's at least like their over-under is like 57 neck tats in John Wick 5.
So
right. I'm guessing John Wick
Sure.
has like
John Wick gets tattooed. That'd just be a whole movie.
He's got the I don't know what is the Boondock Saints thing, the
Oh yeah,
it's like got something like that, like
Spirit to
that,
Sancti.
like, yeah.
For thee, my lord, for thee.
Yeah.
What,
it's like the coolest movie everyone's seen in like 8th grade.
Oh yeah. So look, for me, here's the deal, old legs, and for listeners out there, I'm not. I have facial hair on my face, and that also extends onto part of my neck. And
so you can hide one. Do you have a neck tat?
Maybe I do, but the problem is, I would have to shave probably off some of my facial hair to be able to do that, and I don't want to do that. And also,
So that's the only thing that's holding me back.
Well, I'm also a bigger guy, so I have a bigger neck, and if for some,
you need like a bunch of neck tats.
I need a lot. But the problem is, I don't think they look good on fat dudes. Like if I were to just balloon up and become like super out of shape, fat McFat, the neck tat is not going to be doing me any favors. Now, granted, I will whatever, but I just save that for the seductive suicide girls photo shoot. They're the type that can pull those off, not me. Would you get one?
Okay. Well, that's funny you ask, because for listeners who subscribe to our Patreon, for a small price of $37,000 a month,
Ooh.
I will be getting a neck tat.
Oh my God!
I will be getting the neck tat of our listener's choice. So whatever you can
that's
think
a great
of,
deal.
whatever you can dream up, and if you want to go to that premium extra platinum level, we'll let you get fucking dreamy.
Wow!
Right?
We will not put a time limit on it. You'll have more than 2 days.
Yeah. Because we never have a chance to get fucking dreamy on this podcast, and it's a dreadful way to do business.
Yeah.
And I hate it.
I know.
So yeah. So neck tats look cool. And,
so for final thoughts, neck tats are cool. I also want a basement of trapped women doing busy work for me.
Yeah.
I want to walk into a gun store and just pick up any guns I want without having to think about them, and then point them and shoot them at my enemies and hit them right between the eyes every time. And when they run out, I want to throw them like a boomerang and knock them out.
So I may have brought this point up on Twitter. I feel like all of the baddies, especially the low-level baddies who are like checking their phone, they're like, "Oh, John Wick, $7 million." Like, that could be me, right?
Yeah. Yep.
A, none of you guys have a chance. I'm sorry.
Correct.
B, I would say, especially like just for John Wick 4 and beyond, if you're like the crime lord who's like fucking, I can't say that they're stupid, because maybe like this is like some like beautiful cleansing fire. It's like Game of Thrones, where like we've had 7 generations of stupid sons who keep taking over the family business, and like one is even like the next one is even more degenerate than the next, like that sort of thing.
Sure.
Where it's like maybe it's good that these idiots in charge are just being murdered by John Wick because they're too stupid to figure out, like, whoa, don't fuck with that guy.
Awesome. He's like the white blood cells for him, basically.
Yeah. But maybe for like the smart-ish boss who's like, well, let's try our luck against John Wick. Like, who knows?
Right.
Like, I liked in 3 that they brought in the guys that had like the crazy armor and stuff. That's a good start.
Right.
But what you also need to do, we talked about chucking the gun. You need to be like physically duct taping the guns and knives to all of your henchmen's like hands.
Yeah.
Because literally, like, if you're going out there and you don't have those things like super glued to your limbs, you're just giving John Wick resources.
Right.
He's going to kill you. He's going to stab you in the neck. He's going to grab your gun. He's going to shoot 3 of your buddies. He's going to walk over. He's going to jujitsu you. He's going to like poke you in the eye. He's going to kick you in the nuts, and he's going to grab another gun. It's literally like you can't do that.
So
you can't be supplying him with fuel.
So you basically have to commit to your henchman doing Edward 40 hands, but with guns.
Yes, but with guns.
I see.
And I'm like, hey guys, I know it's sorry, it's like a little bit awkward, but like
yeah, it's like an email Friday night. Like you don't want you're giving them bad news. So you're like, I'm gonna do it Friday at the end of the workday. So you're just typing up an email.
It's like so it's like they don't have like no one has time in the office to really like
to respond to it.
Did you see like the thing like with like the fucking duct tape, man? Like what's the deal with that? It's
fucking
like,
bullshit.
I don't know, like, I was just like kind of on my way out.
I don't know.
To, like,
do we have like?
talk, but I kind of like.
Do we have time to like?
I had dinner reservation.
Go to a meeting.
Like, well, fuck. We'll see you tomorrow at the crime warehouse.
God damn it!
I don't know where they like. Yeah. So. Yeah, that was kind of my other thing.
So.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking for John Wick 4, who would you want as your big bad for that?
That's hard because again, I feel like you can't go Statham, you can't go like
you can't go The Rock.
Lister.
Yeah. Fuck The Rock, dude.
Maybe like Batista.
That thought came to mind. Because he's kind of
he's not like super A-list, but
he's
like,
he's building his
on screen, and he has like the chops to give you more than just like the big hulking guy.
Yeah, but
like he can maybe give you a couple scenes, like they go crashing in the Continental again. He can give you give you a good vodka martini scene where he's sipping on one. Like,
what do you think about? Man, I don't know where this came from, but what do you think about like Daniel Craig as a big bad? Because I don't know if he's really had a shot to be a big bad, and he's.
What about Idris Elba? What if actually he's like a superhuman?
Yeah, that'd be
he's
hilarious.
Like part machine.
That'd be so cool.
That's like never been done, right?
Yeah, he's like Black Superman.
Hashtag free Idris Elba. Hashtag please no more cyber human robot.
God damn it. It's so annoying.
Yeah. No, that'd be interesting. Yeah, and
because like you saw Logan Lucky,
see him
right?
In this world, yeah, you could see him in this world. He's like unshaven, just kind of a little rough. Yeah. Like maybe give him maybe a neck tat.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, Daniel Craig neck tat. He's like no regrets.
hashtag Daniel Craig neck tat no regrets 2020.
Yes. Here's something that
maybe give him a mullet, dude. Neck tat and a mullet, and maybe like one earring and like a toothpick. Oh, I'm in on that.
He's like a bit smarter than all the other assassins in this place, but
he's got
he
white.
Doesn't really care. He's just picking up the trash. Like,
oh yeah, and he always wears white rim ladies sunglasses. I'm picturing it so well. I'm in. Sign him up.
Yes. There's one other thing that I think instead of just like casting like an actual person, and this kind of ties all the way back to the stuff in Hong Kong. And I feel like this maybe won't happen because it doesn't really fit the theme of the films. Because, one, John Wick, it's about MMA and guns. And that's what Americans like.
Very true.
Love MMA and we love guns. And the thing that's a little bit different that I absolutely love about the stuff that's happening in the East is there's that. There's still like the jiu-jitsu, there's the MMA, there's the handgun, gunplay. But there's also like the bad guys that have like the weird weapon of choice that's super cool on screen, but would never work in real life.
But it's just not practical, right?
Yeah, it's like the completely unpractical, like the ball and chain, the like anything with a scythe. I feel like is like fucking awesome. Like maybe it's like one big scythe, or it's like a twin scythe, or it's like a scythe on like a chain or something. They're like swinging it around or something like that. And like any normal human being would just like slit their carotid artery, like training it within the first week and die, like trying to figure out how to use these crazy things. And I feel like that's kind of missing from this franchise. Like I would love to see that, just like a baddie with a crazy weapon. And I don't want to like go into stereotypes. Like it doesn't have to be an Asian actor. It doesn't have to be like Oddjob fucking like throwing a hat across the room. But give me something like that, because that's so cool.
What if we kind of combine a couple of our ideas? What if Batista's the big bad? He's the main, the brains, but his henchman is Jet Li. So like you got a big dude and he's got a little dude henchman, and Jet Li has some crazy like he's got like I don't know, fucking like tarot cards or some shit that have like razor blade edges.
Now you're speaking my language a little bit. Yeah. He's like a little like Gambit or something.
Yeah, a little bit, but like he'll like tell you your future with these tarot cards, and then obviously whichever one you pick like is just somebody getting beheaded, and then he like throws the card at you. That's not a bad dumb idea. He
fires one and it like slits your throat and it like sticks in the wall and it's just like death. It's like
Yep.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then like Batista like does like a neck turn like he'll do.
Yeah. That might be maybe not John Wick 4, but if anything past 4, they're going to have to lean into like a lovable group of criminals, or like a ragtag group of villains that are somewhat relatable, that are kind of fun to latch on to, that has to go after Wick. That's like going full anime with like having like the villains be way cooler than the shitty hero. But that's kind of a different story. But I mean, that's pretty much what we're getting to.
What about
John Wick is impervious to... We already knew from 1 and 2 he's impervious to bullets. He's completely impervious to falls and car accident, cars running into him after 3. I mean, he's essentially Michael Myers after the end of 3. I don't know what.
Wow. Is John Wick Michael Myers?
He's
Boogeyman.
Michael Myers without the mask, for sure.
He's the guy you call to kill Michael Myers. He goes to kill the Boogeyman.
Yeah, I mean, it's fitting. Yeah.
Wow, that tied up nicer than I thought it would.
And you fucking shunned it. You shunned the Halloween 2, man.
I shunned it hard, you're right. But nobody's perfect. Except for John Wick.
if you would read the show notes, I had it all laid out.
Time for all that. Well, thanks you guys so much for listening to this episode. You can check me out on Twitter at LukeLorison89, this podcast at L2 Podcast on Facebook, at L Squared Podcast on Twitter. We're on SoundCloud, we're on YouTube, and we're on Instagram, where
somebody get this man an Instagram handle.
Exactly. Please. Oh, we gotta throw up our reaction to John Wick 3 on Instagram too, by the way. We gotta do that.
It's a great call. So I'm gonna get back on it. I'll get on the Instagram game. I got a couple in the chamber. I got 7 bullets for 7 million.
Gotcha.
That's the bounty that's on the L Squared podcast right now. That's how much we owe the man.
It's 7 million or just one single gold coin, whichever one you have. And then how much was the Patreon for the next? Was it $37,000 a month?
$37,000. Yeah, or again, one gold coin.
Or just one gold coin will also
we're
cover
converting everything to one gold coin standard. So
yeah, it's actually
whatever
harder.
Works better for you.
It's actually harder than you think. But I think that once we do the groundwork for it, it's actually going to be easier in the long run. Because then we're not going to have to worry about like international currency and how it translates and what the
right.
difference is. It's just going to be just one gold coin always for everything. So
yeah, so if you want to see me with a neck tat, get on the Patreon because hey, if you're not the first one, I can't promise that I'll get two.
right.
So
And there's going to be multiple.
Get on it. These spots are going to be going quick. We've already gotten some interest. We're already getting some hits. So, John Wick. We're going to be plunging into the future. I really hope. I'm super, super hoping that they just like pick it up like 15 minutes later with John Ford. Okay. That'd be amazing.
Just keep doing amazing. That every time.
He's going on like 40 hours of just like no sleep and.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, he's pissed.
That's where I'm at.
I'm pissed.
Go Halloween 2. Double down on Halloween 2.
Well,
right.
On that, we're done.